Hello, everyone. This is John Cash Philippi with Gaming and Leisure Voice. I am here with George Polyard, who is the COO of ComOps. We're going to have a great discussion about what ComOps does and all the great offerings they have. But before we do that, we're fortunate here on GNL Voice to have a couple of sponsors. So we're going to take a listen to them for a second. Agilis helps the gaming industry realize its full potential through exceptional technology that goes beyond what other tech providers have trained hospitality to expect. We build our state-of-the-art hospitality-focused software for continuous innovation, industry-leading data sharing, maximum flexibility for best-of-breed performance, and smooth ecosystem integration, and an always learning guest profile engine so you can create personal experiences. It's time for hospitality to go beyond with technology from Agilicis. Welcome back. Now, George, tell us a little bit about yourself and ComOps.
Well, first of all, John, thanks for having me on. Great to been looking at this conversation and excited to be here. A little kind of background about both myself and ComOps. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. Started as a dishwasher in a small restaurant in North Carolina. Went to culinary school. Thought I wanted to be a chef, and that led me to Las Vegas and UNLV, and that then led to really my career where it is today. And I more recently got into the CX part of hospitality and the softwares that empower CX, customer experience, and have been a part of ComOps since it started just over 3 years ago, about 3.5 years ago. And ComOps, which is essentially short for commercial operations, was founded to support the hospitality industry and really to solve problems that operators might have. And we really pride ourselves in combining both strategy, so strategy like you might find at a consulting firm, but also operational support in the form of what we call success. And that operational support might be some of the things we'll probably talk about today, but might be our partnerships with software vendors or our offshore contact center solution. And those partnerships, along with our strategic guidance, really bring this exceptional marriage, if you will, to hospitality operators. We work with lots of on-property folks and leaders, but also at corporate levels, from big to small. Most of our properties, our clients are casinos. A lot of them are in the tribal space, but we also have many that are not. And we even have some. We have a golf course management company that's a client, and some other interesting ones. But really excited for our conversation here today to really kind of talk about how ComOps can solve some basic problems and can bring some pretty interesting tools and solutions to organizations that might not be able to tap into those for a variety of reasons.
So you got to tell me, do you get free golf when you do the golf?
You know, John, I haven't yet taken them up on that, but I'm sure they would. They actually, I will say though, John, it's funny. I'm not a golfer, though I hope someday to be a golfer. But
I think we
the
all aspire to that.
yeah, I do know. And it's not a secret, but the golf course management company we work with is called Kemper Sports, and they manage a number of municipal golf courses, but they also manage a couple of big heavy hitters that take years to get tee times on. So I don't mean to digress there, but really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I remember when we're going through the initial interview for this, we talked about some of the things you do, and I was really kind of trying to put it into a package. And it's really difficult to put what ComOps does into a package
Yeah.
because you do so much.
Hmm.
Um, but but you said something I really liked. You said we take the temperature of a company and find what fits. And could you kind of explain that a little bit for me, or give me some examples of that?
Yeah, and John, you called it out that we do a number of different things. We really do four main things, and I'll talk about those, of course. And so as a result, the ComOps elevator pitch can be a little tricky. And so instead of going into what we do and the things that we can offer, is that we often start by taking the temperature of the client and getting to know them, building a partnership. We really are not a vendor of any one solution, but we offer that strategy and support with a number of different solutions. And so we want to start off that relationship by finding out what's working, but more importantly, what's not working. And sometimes that's a difficult question to answer. And so we'll often start with what we call a rapid business assessment, where sometimes our team will actually go on site, but we'll try to uncover what's going on and where our resources and expertise might be able to help. And that might mean looking at data. Very often it leads to finding some data that helps us make a decision. Might be interviewing stakeholders, looking at guest feedback, for instance, and combining that into a recommendation and a solution and a path forward. I'll give you a quick example. So we undertook this exercise with a large integrated casino resort on the East Coast. They came to us with a contact center problem, and they knew that they had some staffing issues. They knew that there were some opportunities within their contact center. And so we took a deep dive into the data of their contact center and identified that their call abandonment rate was just over 30%. So if you think about that, they were not answering over 30% of their phone calls each day, which is
That's
far above
horrible.
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 And if you think about a casino, and sure, some of those calls might be repeated calls, people calling back. Some of them perhaps are what we might call a ghost call. There's a variety of reasons, but still, 30% is high. And and if you think about how many of those might have been calls that were requesting a booking or wanted to redeem an offer or even wanted to make a dining reservation. And so we worked with that property to uncover what the majority of those calls were, and ended up moving towards a solution where we are now assisting them with the overflow of their phone calls, using some of our offshore team to really try to work on that abandonment to get that much lower. And it's now much lower, and it's in the single digit percentage wise across the board. And one of the stats that I heard long ago that I think is relevant here, John, is that 70% of people are likely to book if the first phone call is answered by a human, if they're hoping to book a reservation. And so that first call, making sure it's answered, it's done well is really critical. And that's just one example of us solving a problem. And in that case, it was by helping them to answer their phone calls. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it might be looking at their IVR phone tree, making sure it's set up correctly, or other tools that we have at our disposal.
Yeah, that's when you say answered by a human, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, who else? Aliens? No. But yeah, I get the whole call tree thing. But you mentioned call centers, and you mentioned call centers outside of the country.
Mhm.
Um, and we're all pretty familiar with call centers outside of the country and with VoIP nowadays.
Mhm.
It's so simple to transfer, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. The challenge that I see, and I'm sure a lot of other people see just from hearing that, is things like taking a credit card over the phone to book a reservation. How do you help accomplish that?
And John, it's a really it's a good question, I'll say, and it's an important one. And here's my hot take for you, John, is that I would argue that the remote on-site call centers that are in use around the world are more secure and more PCI compliant than your typical on-site casino call center. Because it's international, there is a lot of technology that has to happen to enable that. So from the beginning, there's VDIs, VPNs, all kinds of technology to make sure any data that's transferred is secure. But what's really different about offshore contact centers is the physical security. And so, in most cases, our partnerships that we have are on-site call centers. So the team are physically on site. And I actually just visited one recently in Latin America. And there's only one door in and out of the call center where these agents work, and it's isolated to that particular line of business. So just those phone calls. And before you can walk in to that small area where the phone calls for that client are being answered, there's a security guard 24/7 with a metal detector that scans each individual that walks in. And they're not looking necessarily for weapons or contraband or anything, but they're making sure you don't have your phone or a tablet or even a pencil. Pencils and pens and paper are not even allowed in that call center so that nothing can be written down, nothing can leave that call center. And that's just a simple example of the physical security that is in place. But it's really stringent and it's much more than again I think you would find in a typical casino environment. And and I would argue that the quality of those calls and the scalability of the calls is robust as well. And just one thing I'll share is that our team is totally agnostic to the tools that are in use. And so I think you called out kind of collecting credit card information. We can use a number of different tools. A lot of our clients use a tool where the actual guest or the customer on the phone, they enter their credit card number themselves, so the agent is never doing it. And call recording is automatically paused or redacted, et cetera. So there's a lot of things in place to make sure that it's secure.
That's great. I mean, I, I guess I have another kind of follow-up question to that is how do you convince a tribal, especially because you have a lot of tribal casinos, and I know
Yep.
that I have trouble just getting stuff out to the cloud sometimes. And how do you, I mean, it must to, I mean, to convince people to say, hey, we're gonna do this call center outside and it's gonna be great and you're gonna, and your data is gonna be secure. I mean,
Mhm.
have you ever done a tour of some of these facilities for clients, things like that?
We absolutely can, and we have very much an open door policy with these call centers. And I think actually when people see these sites in person, it changes their opinion quite dramatically because you also see the other big name clients that are in the same building doing the same thing. Big names that you would use when you travel, for instance. And so that quickly kind of solidifies and validates the approach that it's not just a niche thing, that this is something done by so many large organizations. But to answer your question, John, I think it really starts with sharing with that tribal organization the value that this solution would bring. The goal is never to replace jobs at all. It's to solve a problem. And sometimes, again, that solution is by using offshore talent. And our numbers estimate that to staff a call center that has four agents and a manager costs about $250,000 a year.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
And how many phone calls can you answer with four agents? Like you can't even really staff that 24/7. And so that's where our team can come in and can say, okay, well, sure, you have your call center that costs $250,000 a year. Great. And we'll take the overflow calls at night. Or if none of those agents answer the call, we'll take the overflow calls during the day, et cetera. And that starts by kind of building trust. We also, John, can start small where we can say, hey, maybe we don't take the reservation calls. Maybe we just take the FAQs, the questions that come up. What time does the sports book open, for instance? And that can be a really great way to start building that trust. Um, I'd also kind of challenge that if someone came to me, John, with that question of, well, this isn't going to be secure, I would challenge that and probably ask, do any of your staff today work from home occasionally? And that is becoming more and more common. I was recently on a call with a big name casino client on a Friday. and almost all of their IT staff were working from home. I think that's fantastic. But the technology and the risk associated with a IT leader working from home, I don't think is that much different than a phone call being answered offshore. And the
I have to admit
technologists,
that working from home was kind of fun. I would dress like this, but I wouldn't be wearing pants half the time.
yeah,
Just for the fun of it.
yep, absolutely, yeah.
but yeah, the that I completely agree.
And so that's kind of I think sums it up. But the technology that we're using it's not new, it's not novel, it's proven, and it's also we will use the tools that that client is already using. Of course, we can bring our recommendations if they don't have those tools. But again, this is not we're not doing anything novel or really unique. Rather, it's just I think what this kind of boils down to is especially for a small tribal organization, let's take a single location resort casino with 200 or 300 rooms. The idea of them creating their own partnership to have their phone calls answered somewhere else would probably be a daunting task for that organization. And they would probably receive a price for that service that would be far and away higher than using a partner. And so that's really the core of what we do, John, is that our partnerships and our expertise allow that solution to be unlocked for businesses that might not be able to tap into those types of resources.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's something that just fascinates me. I love the fact that, sometimes we spend and hours and sometimes days, weeks, and months trying to find a way to do something, any type of solution. And I try to tell people all the time, the footwork's been done. Use your partners, use your
Mhm.
guys like ComOps and call George.
There we go. I like that.
Yeah. Well, we are fortunate here on Gaming Unleashed to have two sponsors. So let's take a second, take a little breath, and let you listen to our second sponsor. With over 50 years of global experience, BPOS delivers comprehensive point-of-sale solutions tailored for casinos, powered by a robust enterprise platform with all the integrations you need, from player rewards, PMS, and camera systems to business intelligence and more. BPOS seamlessly connects your operations. Our solutions cover point-of-sale systems, online ordering, self-serve kiosk, mobile ordering, pay-at-table options, QR code ordering, KDS, inventory management, enterprise reporting, and beyond. Backed by exceptional US-based customer service and support, we ensure your casino's operations run smoothly and efficiently. Welcome back. And George, we were talking a little bit at one time about virtual hotels. Now, it always cracks me up because I hear the word virtual hotels and I like VR and I think it's a fascinating media to do all sorts of things with. Um, so when you say virtual hotel, I think, Sims, but I know that's not what you mean. But explain virtual hotels.
John, this is probably a topic that I have learned more about this year than any other topic. And so when we started ComOps, I oversaw our customer experience vertical, which is rooted in our partnership with Medallia. And our revenue management practice, which is where this particular area lies, wasn't something that I really was involved with. But in my new role, I am. And the idea of a virtual hotel, which I think you're right, John, it's just a fun name. And but when you hear that, you think, what is this? It's the idea of expanding a hotel's inventory without actually having to construct any new inventory. And so if you think about a typical, again, kind of single unit casino resort that might have, let's say, 300 rooms, odds are on Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, they are going to be fully committed or pretty close to it. And definitely on holidays and special event nights, that hotel tower should be fully occupied. And also from a comp perspective, that tower should be filled with as many high value players as possible. And so let's say the comp threshold for Friday, Saturday for that casino is a $500 ADT or theoretical. That means then that any player who is under that threshold doesn't get a comped room. So what happens to that guest? They try to put in their offer, they try to redeem it, they call, they get a no. And typically there's not much of an alternative. It's no, I'm sorry, you do not get this offer. We hope to see you on Wednesday or Tuesday, which isn't a great solution. And so what a virtual hotel does, it's really simple. It's looking around the area and saying, okay, are there any nearby hotels, branded, independent, you name it, that might have some availability on your typical high demand time periods? And it's creating a relationship with them first. So it's saying, okay, the hotel down the road, let's get to know them a little bit and see if they would be interested in this. And it's then essentially that casino becoming kind of a group facilitator where they say, hey, we want to have a block of rooms, maybe 20 rooms per weekend. And we want to be able to then book into that using our systems. And this is the key here is that it allows then, back to my example, it allows then that guest who previously would have not received a complimentary night, when they call the call center and say, hi, I'd like to make a reservation. Do I have any comp rooms available? That agent can then say, at this time at the main tower, we don't, but we have a partner hotel where we can still give you a comp room. It's only 10 minutes away. From my standpoint, I can't think of a better example of a win-win-win-win-win a play here in the casino industry because that player gets a comp room, so they're happy. The casino makes sure that that player is staying with them, likely to play with them, happier. They're redeeming their rewards. It's also a win for that partner hotel. They get a few more occupied room nights per month. And it also then allows you to just keep that player in your ecosystem. And so we have a partner hotel in Northern California that we helped to execute this. And I want to be clear that it's not just about the partnership, it's also about the technology. So it's making sure that that player can easily book that partner hotel without any friction. It's almost like it's a different room category. Okay, you have your view room and then you have your partner room, for instance. And that hotel in Northern California in 2 months, over 800 additional occupied room nights from just this program. And I can't share the theoretical, but a meaningful amount of additional gaming theoretical added each month. That would be a tremendous number if you look at that annually. And so it's something that I think is that approach, John, is that a particularly crazy idea? No, there's hotels that do that, there's casinos that do that all the time. But it's our team, number one, being able to say, hey, from a strategic perspective, we think you should do this. And number two, we've done it before. We've got the playbook. We can help you do it very efficiently so that your team on the ground can keep doing what they do best, leading their teams, providing great customer service. And again, that's something that just, John, I didn't know much about. And I think is a fascinating, simple, really simple solution to a very straightforward problem.
Yeah, and because I listened to this, and the first thing I think, because I'm an IT guy, is the technical challenges, and you guys have already figured that out. You figured out exactly what you need to do with the systems, how you need to connect it, what they need to do on the audit side, and how the money needs to transfer back and forth from a comp. So that's that. Like you said, I think you're right. I think it's a win-win-win
Mhm.
situation for everyone to go that route. The other another aspect of your business, and a very large aspect of your business, is digital innovation.
Mhm.
And you know, digital innovation is one of those things that to me, it's almost the same buzzword as cyber. I mean, somebody comes in and they come in and say, "Hey, I've got this digital innovation you got to see," and it covers so much gamuts, and there's so give me what ComOps does to provide digital innovation, if you could.
I would say, John, of the things that we do, digital innovation is probably the most tailored and most unique per client engagement. And that is because the digital maturity of properties of organizations is so very different. And so, really, with digital, it starts with understanding what are the goals, what are the problems. And a lot of the work we do in the digital space is actually, and John, you'll love this, is actually taking some of the workload off the IT department.
See, I really
And
do like that.
I can imagine taking it off the IT plate and serving kind of as a subject matter expert to lead that organization really efficiently and knowledgeably with that expertise to getting that solution implemented. So I'm being a little vague here, kind of intentionally, because it depends on what that client is looking for. And it depends on what they have in place. It could be adding a mobile app, right? We know that there's statistics out there that 80% of people would prefer to check into a hotel using a mobile app or a kiosk. Maybe your property doesn't have a mobile app. And also, maybe you have a very lean IT department. And the IT folks that might be involved with this app are the same people who are fixing the printer at the front desk and probably don't have, they've probably never managed and built a mobile app before.
Oh, it's a whole different skill set completely.
Exactly. And that's where we can come in and say, hey, we'll take this off your plate. We have the expertise, we have the partnerships. Let's build you an awesome mobile app. Or even something that's maybe a bit more technical or maybe marketing focused, something like a CDP or even a CRM of saying, hey, let's just get you organized. Let's get your data in good shape so then you can turn around and customize your marketing offers. And there's, again, I'll throw another stat out there that um, retention in loyalty programs is increased by 30% if you customize the offers. And you really can't customize those offers unless you have your data in really tip-top shape. And that's something that, again, a CDP or a data warehouse or data lake, CRM, all these acronyms can help you with. And that world is a daunting one. And what our team really allows you to do, similar to the solutions I've previously mentioned, it allows you to tap into those tools that might previously be reserved for the big players in the room, that might be too expensive for a smaller or medium-sized operator, or maybe just too daunting from a implementation perspective.
I, you know, being right now, I'm with a small operator. I've been with the large and the medium and all that, but I'm with a small tribal operator. And the one thing that I find that is unique to small operators, not unique, I mean, similar to a lot of small operators, would be money. And digital innovation is expensive. How, I mean, how do they jump into the game? Even if it's a mobile app, I mean, mobile apps can get pricey.
Mhm.
If it's signage, especially signage,
Yeah.
very pricey. And then that equipment versus content argument that a lot of people seem to forget, especially in the smaller spaces. So, how do you help with that?
Well, I would again go back, John, to saying we need to understand for that property, whether it's yours or another, what's the current state of affairs? What are you currently doing well? And then also what is the problem? And from there, it's then understanding, okay, what is your budget? And especially in the digital innovation space, saying, okay, well, if your budget is under six figures, let's talk about what that could get you realistically to make an impact. And maybe that's a simple website redesign that's more mobile friendly because mobile is where most of these online interactions are starting these days, mobile or tablet. So maybe it's starting with something like that and really understanding, okay, where is the biggest ROI here? And we really focus a lot on looking at ROI because that's ultimately what's going to prove the value of what we do. And of course, focusing on transparent pricing, but also I think going back to some of the things I've said before is that we are not a vendor in the typical sense. We are not that virtual hotel that I offered that I was talking about earlier, John. We don't, it's not a product we pull off the shelf and present to you. That just happens to be one of the tools that we have at our disposal. So it's also I would go back to your question on on kind of saying, well, let's uncover what you need here and give you a tailored solution. And that tailored solution might include software from someone else or whatnot. But that's really kind of what our approach typically is.
Cool. Well, um, this has been a great conversation, and I've come down to the point where I kind of realized that, ComOps is like an everything bagel. You'll do everything, which is great. And I know there's a lot of need out there for something like that, or something like what you offer. George, do you have any final thoughts for everyone on the show and what they should be looking for and how they should be approaching some of their projects?
Well, and John, I think I like the everything. I mean, everything bagel sounds great right now. It's about lunchtime here, and I think that that definitely is that analogy I love. But there's a part of me that, like, I'll be honest, doesn't love it because we don't want to be the jack of all trades, master of none. However, one of the founding principles of ComOps was that we want to solve problems for this industry. We want to help operators navigate and solve those problems. And the problems are also, though, going to change. The problems that we're solving today will likely be different in the future, and we are okay with that. That's part of my job is to try to look around corners and see where do we need to be heading so that we can bring these solutions to the table sooner rather than later, before people start asking for them. And I think what I'll kind of say is that we really feel I previously worked for a vendor, and that is a very different relationship. And I had a great experience working for that vendor, but we really believe that we are a partner rather than just giving you a turnkey solution for something. We're going to help you along the way. We're going to share our opinion, which is a something that we really instill through all levels of our organization because we're helping casino hospitality clients every day. We likely have an opinion on how to do something and what might work best because we've seen it at a lot of other clients. And I think fundamentally that is really our approach. And I'll give you kind of an example too of rather than just being a vendor, being a partner. So with one of our very first clients, not a gaming client, was Fountainblue Miami Beach. And and this actually speaks to our Medallia partnership, which I haven't talked much about today. And during the pandemic, they turned off their customer listening platform. They weren't sending out any surveys. They weren't listening to social media. They were just kind of completely flying blind because of the pandemic. Understandably, they turned a lot of things off from a cost savings perspective. We helped them enable Medallia, turn it on, customize it, make it an awesome platform. And it didn't end there though. That's the thing about being a partner is we would also help them uncover insights from their data. So rather than again just here's the login to the platform, off you go, we would facilitate regular business reviews where we would look at the data and our unique perspective that was different than theirs, an outsider's perspective, would help them find some little golden nuggets of information. One of those that stood out is that we found that one night guests, so guests who were only spending one night at the resort, had a significantly lower net promoter score than everybody else. And that's a very simple insight. That's not anything novel, but it's not something that they were able to uncover. And we had to layer in net promoter score with nights of stay and do a little math, but it was pretty straightforward. But it then allowed them to say, oh my gosh, that's actually a really easy thing to target. Every day we have arrivals at our hotel. Let's look at our one night guests and see what can we do to make sure they have a good experience. And they simply looked at the management of their queue. So when guests are in queue, they're at the hotel, their room is not ready, and they started prioritizing the one night guest just a little bit more. So that might mean if you were a two-night guest, you had or more, you had to wait for your room a little longer, but the one night guest might get their keys a little bit quicker. And that saw that cohort's net promoter score go up substantially. And so it's something small like that that I think working with a partner compared to a vendor unlocks. And I hope that's a helpful story there, John, to kind of end on,
Oh,
and also to
absolutely.
that partnership.
And I would agree that doing everything is impossible, but I will agree that you're experts in support and solutions. And so you can apply that to almost everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that.
George, it's been great having you here on the show. And to everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. We've been talking with George Polyard of the COO of ComOps.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.